We can all take better care of our skin, but especially as our teens head back to school, there is never a better time for a skin refresh. Here to tell us how to get that glowing skin we all want is Dr. Karan Lal. Welcome, Dr. Lal. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So this is a big deal, I think, for a lot of people, teens and adults alike, but let's really focus on our teens. As they go back to school, if they're dealing with that teen acne, what are some tips that you have for them?
The first tip is, I would say, don't underestimate the importance of a skincare routine in teenagers. I think a lot of teens are probably doing things that parents don't know about. Like, a lot of my kids come in, and when I ask them questions, they're like, oh, I'm using this, I'm using Drunk Elephant, I'm going to Sephora, I'm buying this, and I'm like, that's a lot of stuff. So they're kind of playing their own chemist, you know, they're trying different things. So that's issue number one. Issue number two, acne is actually a physiologic thing. It's going to happen. It's part of the hormonal surge that happens when kids go through puberty. So it's something you should expect and not like kind of dismiss, because kids, when they get scarring, it's really bad and it's extremely expensive. It's 10 times more expensive to treat the scarring later on than it is to treat the acne.
Absolutely. Deal with it now and be preventative rather than reactive once you've already had the issue.
Yes, and less is more. I feel like a lot of people in the same household can use the same stuff. So I always tell parents, you know, when they come in for themselves and they're like, well, my kid's starting to get acne, it's easy. You start with a couple of things. If your child has oily skin, get a salicylic acid cleanser. A lot of brands make them. La Roche-Posay makes one, CeraVe makes one, Cetaphil makes one. Super affordable products that you can get and use that every day in the morning, or use it at night whenever they shower. That's step number one.
And this is an over-the-counter kind of a thing. We're not even getting into prescription stuff yet.
Yeah.
So this is the first step.
Yeah, so first step is you get a nice salicylic acid-based cleanser. Second step is you want to make sure you get a retinoid. A retinoid is something that's like a retinol, but it's actually stronger and it's more likely to, it's effective for acne. And we actually now have one that's over-the-counter that used to be a prescription. It's called Differin. It's adapalene, and you can get the generic form or the brand name, and it's super affordable. It's over the counter. It was the same thing we would have prescribed to you 10 years ago.
Okay, interesting. So you're kind of using a lot of doctor speak here. So
yes.
I'm like, wow, this is a lot of information. But basically what we need to know is get that good cleanser, get a retinoid, because it turns over the skin cells.
Correct. It turns over the skin cells. It helps break up blackheads and whiteheads and prevents those red bumps from coming. Because once we're in the red bump phase, in the nodule phase where you get painful bumps and a lot of acne, then it's really time to escalate and come into the dermatologist, because there's things we have to do to make sure that, you know, we check blood work sometimes to make sure it's not, there's an underlying condition like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, really common in younger girls now, and to make sure there are no other systemic signs that are contributing to the acne. And then we probably put them on an oral antibiotic for a short amount of time to make sure we're decreasing inflammation. And, you know, the skin barrier is changing in that puberty phase.
Yeah.
And then if things don't work, then we move on to the next step.
Okay, so this is great. So we have a plan for where to start. If that doesn't quite work, then they come in and they visit you and they figure out what to do next.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have the salicylic acid, the retinol, and then we want to do some sort of a moisturizer?
Yeah, so when we're talking about moisturizer, there's a couple of different moisturizers, and a lot of moisturizers will say that they're they're non-pore clogging or they're acne-free. So you want to look for their products that say non-comedogenic, because those are moisturizers that will not clog your pores. And there's a bunch of good ones. Cetaphil makes a really good moisturizing lotion. CeraVe makes a good moisturizing lotion. La Roche-Posay makes a good moisturizing lotion. And if you have acne-prone skin, you're better off using a lotion, which has more water in it, than a cream, which has more oil in it. So it's not as occlusive.
Okay, this is great. All right, well, you have given us so much information, especially for the parents, on what to do and where to go next. And then remind everybody, because, you know, all of the kids nowadays are on social media, they're on their phones. Remind them where they can find you.
They can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Sir Dermzalot, SirDermzalot.
Okay, that is great and also hilarious. Doctor, thank you so much for being here with all these great tips. More information is also on our website at cw7az.com. But